Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it's your first time here. Today I'm going to be doing a Victorian Pinhead cosplay. If you saw my last video, then you will know that I recently saw the new Hellraiser film and I fell in love with the Cenobites. I thought the new Pinhead looked amazing. Jamie Clayton did a great job. This, of course, filled me with inspiration. I needed to do a Pinhead cosplay. But because it is me, we don't just do straight cosplays on this channel. I'm making it Victorian. I feel like with Victorian, especially the very late Victorian, there's a lot that I can do with various shapes and detailing to give it that Cenobite feel. Especially with the colours that I use and the way I block things out. I would like to just go into some details about my references and inspirations and stuff for this cosplay. That will mean showing pictures and stuff from both the new film and the comics. So if you don't want to be spoiled for those, or if you're just not into the whole body horror thing, then skip to this timestamp. Okay, so this is Pinhead from the new films, and as you can see, lots and lots of things to get inspiration from here. One thing that called to me straight away was this area around here. Love this little thing here, and it reminds me so much of a cameo brooch. The other thing was details like this. This is really, really cool looking, and this stuff around here. Picturing that with puff sleeves and bits of red in it, so it looks like bits are exposed. That'd be quite cool. This lacing down the back, that's something that I can definitely use. And there's some detailing down here at the top of the, I suppose you can call it a skirt, a skin skirt. That's something that I can use as well. Get rid of all that so you can actually see what I'm looking at again. So yeah, these bits with the little pins. As much as I would love to be able to do the pins like this, with them actually being pins with a little pinhead, I have done an experiment, but they're just too heavy. They fall down. These ones will be extremely lightweight and they're in a prosthetic, so they're like anchored down. I don't have the equipment to make a full face prosthetic, so I'm going to have to just glue them onto my skin. So unfortunately that is a no-go, although I absolutely love this design. The other place that I'm getting inspiration from is the comics. So there's a point in the comics where Elliot Spencer makes a deal with Kirsty Cotton so that he can become human again, and Kirsty becomes the new priestess of hell, i.e. Pinhead. And this is her outfit. Things that I absolutely love: the big stand-up collar. I think that looks awesome, and that's something that could definitely be used for Victorian stuff. The colour scheme, the white and red, it is very reminiscent of this as well, and I'm wondering if they got the idea for this colour scheme from the Kirsty Cotton Pinhead. This I find really, really interesting. I want to incorporate it in there, and it reminds me of this bit here. Also the big sleeves as well kind of remind me of Victorian puffy sleeves, even though these are more kind of 80s shoulder pads. But the inspiration is there. This collar as well, it's so cool. Anyway, this is where I'm getting my inspiration from the actual Victorian stuff. So the big stand-up collar, this kind of thing looks so cool, and it reminds me of this. Puff sleeves, gotta have puff sleeves, and I was particularly drawn to this one because of these bits of detailing here. If I did them in red, then that could give that kind of flayed skin appearance. Again, this here reminds me a lot of this detailing here on the torso. And this here reminds me of this bit here. This is very reminiscent of that detailing. So basically what I'm trying to do, even though obviously the styles are very, very different, trying to see what real world examples of like detailing and stuff I could bring into the design to make it so that I'm not completely ignoring like actual Victorian examples of detailing that's there. So this is all a lot of stuff that I can work with to create my design. So time to get drawing. Okay, so for anybody who had skipped ahead, basically we're going for a red, kind of deep blood red and an off-white theme. This is kind of going with a in-between for the colour schemes of one of the characters in the comics and the new Pinhead from the new film. Right, so this is what I'm thinking of for the actual design. I really wanted it to have that kind of the body horror feel without actually being body horror, if you know what I mean. So, like, this collar being reminiscent of skin being peeled back, and this bit here being like the skin's pulled apart, and same with the shoulders and stuff. This bit, my thinking was the comics, the design of that outfit, and these bits here from the Jamie Clayton Pinhead. There's some quite nice detailing on the front here. For the overall style, I have tried to keep it in the realms of 1888, 1889, that kind of time period. So puff sleeves, not quite as big. I also noticed that there's this detailing around the bottom area of the skirts from that time as well, where it's starting to get that kind of bell shape, but then we've still got the gathering and stuff at the back. This bottom bit is all going to be ruffled up, so the skirt itself is going to be the length of like an Edwardian like walking skirt, and then it'll have the ruffle peeking out from the bottom, again making it reminiscent of the outfit from the comics. Also, from the Jamie Clayton Pinhead, I quite liked the detailing in the throat, and I thought that that looked kind of like a cameo brooch, so definitely including that in the design. Obviously this isn't 100% historically accurate. I have taken some liberties, but if you think about it, there isn't any extant examples of people with pins in their head, so I think I can get away with it. I am hoping that it at least gives that Victorian feel to it with the general design of the outfit. So the breakdown of the outfit is going to be skirt. I'm going to attach the ruffle straight to the bottom of the skirt. I think that's going to be easiest. We're going to have a little jacket. I'm not going to make the jacket too structured. I've not even got enough materials. I've not got any horsehair braid or anything like that for the collar. This stand-up collar bit here, I am thinking I'm pretty sure I have got some synthetic baleen which I can use to bone that, so that'll give that some structure. This bit here, I'm thinking it's going to be easiest to make it a dicky, because there's no point in me making an entire shirt waist when you're only going to see the collar and this little bit front bit. So a dicky is going to be the quickest and easiest way to do that. This bit, I'm thinking I'm going to... I just realised I've forgotten to put some style lines in there, so I'll just quickly add them in. Right, this bit I'm going to do the whole back section without a centre seam in the red, and then do like a shortened version of the back bit so that it does gape open. And then I'm going to try, ideally I'd like to use some of the fabric that I'm using for this to do a little like laced up bit here, same as the example from the new Pinhead. If I can't get it out of this material looking good, I might have to see if I can find some ribbon that's in an off-white. We shall see. I do now have a pattern. I was stupid and threw away my previous pattern, so I ended up having to make a new one. But I do have one that fits pretty good now, which I can use for the bodice. I already have an Edwardian skirt pattern. I've got two actually, that I can use for the skirt, so get that little bell shape going on. Ruffle is a ruffle, and the dicky I'm thinking I'm going to use my just regular modern day shirtwaist pattern for, because like I say, I only need this bit in the collar. Right, I think we are ready to go. I started off by making the dicky using my block pattern as a base. I cut out strips of the pale fabric, folded in the seam allowance and attached them to the front of the dicky. It was only after I'd stitched everything down that I realised it looked kind of like a pie. I pressed my seams and then attached the collar. To finish, I added some buttons down the back. Okay, so I've redrawn my bodice pattern onto some fresh paper. One thing that I need to do for both the red inner and the outer layer is cut that across like that. Like I said, I was going to do lapels, but after discussing it with the other half, because it's always good to get second opinions and stuff, we both felt that it would look better without the lapels. So down there, I'll measure exactly how low down it needs to be based on the dicky that I've done. The red inner part will just be the entire bodice, like put together like this. I've decided I'm not going to do this on the fold because, thinking about it, it's supposed to be like spine, so having a centre line down there will actually work. I could even do a strip of the lighter material. That would be interesting, because then it'd be like the actual spine. I'll have to see on that. I'll do an experiment and see how it looks. For the outer, I need to do the lines going down like that. So what I'm going to have to do, I think, is line up all the pieces and then slash through. For this, what I'm most likely going to end up doing is keeping a little bit of a dart at the top, but then for the lower pieces, just do them as strips, because I'm not going to need to pull them in at all. I'm also thinking, because from watching other people make clothes that come down like that at the front, you can sometimes end up with some gaping around the neckline. So what I'm going to do is just pinch out like 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and swing that into one of these 2 darts down here. Just so we've got a nice snug fit going across there. Right, so I need to get cutting out, and then I think doing the red under one will be easy. I've made this bodice a million times by now because of doing mock-ups. The outer one is going to be a little bit more tricky, so we shall see how it turns out. Just look at that. That is sleeve patterns and bodice patterns completely deconstructed. I'm hoping I've labelled everything well enough that I don't get too confused putting this back together. Okay, so I've got my back pieces, and I've also got these little extra bits. Idea being, kind of like a corset, I'm going to sew along here, flip that to the inside, and then on the bit towards the middle, kind of small of the back kind of area, I'm going to do some hand done eyelets, and then we're going to have the material threaded through there, so it's kind of like corseted. I tried doing that thing where you sew all the pieces in like a row, and it was a bit confusing, and yeah, I don't think it ended up being any quicker than what I usually do, really. Don't think I'll be trying that one again. That's the back all put together. I am genuinely amazed that I didn't get all turned around and mixed up. What I need to do now is do the little tiny top bits of a dart in the front bodice bit, and then attach the backs to the front. Okay, so I have just spent an age tacking all of this down, ready to be sewn on proper. Something which I should have foreseen, I don't know why I didn't, these little end bits have ended up being super thick. Like I say, like this many layers of fabric, of course it was going to be really thick. But I'm not going to be able to get the sewing machine through that. I'm going to have to do little prick stitches just on these end bits, I think. I have also given it a little try on, and I think I want to move this like one width again to this side, because it's just coming up a little bit too close to the centre front. Because again, one of those quirks of working with different materials, the mock-ups I'd been making out of sheets, I'd got to a point where they were just a little bit too small, like literally half an inch over the bust too small. Then I made one out of lining fabric, because that was the only spare fabric I had, and that was like a solid 1.5 inches too small. Now I've made it out of this fabric, and we're about 2 inches too big. But not over the bust for some reason, just this bit here. So that means that this has ended up being too close to the front, so yeah, just move it over a bit. Now the tricky bit is going to be replicating that on this side so that it's perfectly symmetrical. Wish me luck. Okay, it's starting to get dark now, so I'm probably going to call it quits for the night. But I just wanted to say what's going on with the sleeves, which I'm going to actually sew tomorrow. They're put together in the same sort of way as the bodice section, with folding under the seam allowance and having a gap for the red to poke through. Only difference is I'm going to sew the sleeves flat. That way I can serge around the edges of them and then stitch them together into a sleeve. Also for the cuffs, I'm sewing this bit on kind of back to front, and then it's going to get folded in on itself like that. So that way my edges are going to be concealed on the inside and it'll be a nice clean finish. Yeah, this didn't work. Don't be me, don't do this. What ended up happening was I ended up with really bulky, really kind of obvious seams on the inside. So it wasn't like you'd usually have with cuffs where it's all neatly tucked in on the inside. So yeah, don't do this. I fucked up. We have a mismatch. It's so annoying. The thing is, the only way I could fix it would be to completely, like, unpick all of this bottom section. And actually, no, I don't even know. I'd have to basically pick either this bit or this bit, unpick it all, make a new pattern piece that matches up, and thing is, I'm also running out of time, so I'm debating whether to see if there's some sort of quick fix that I can do, or just leave it. I mean, worst case scenario, I could make this a really thick band going across there and just cut out a bit of the red and put it across and have it like top stitched instead of like this bit being over, and hopefully nobody would notice. Yeah, I'll play around with that, I think, and see, because I've just tried them on and it's really, really noticeable. So these ones have worked out okay though. That's fine. So yeah, it's just so annoying. I ended up going with a thick strip of red to cover my mistakes. After that was fixed, I gathered up the sleeve head and attached the sleeves to the jacket. I added a facing piece to the jacket front. This was whip stitched to the inside by hand. To finish the bottom, I made some binding from the red fabric. Oh, it's a dull one today. Not got a lot of light. The jacket isn't so close to being done. So close. All I've got to do is do the lacing bit up the back and the collar. I've just done a little experiment with making a collar out of card to see how it would look. This one was originally like that long and it was way too much. One day I might make a collar that big, but today is not the day. This might even still be a little bit too long, we'll have to see. It does fit around my neck though, which is good, so I just need to cut out one of those and two each of those out of this fabric and the red fabric. I stitched the light layer together and the red layer pieces separately, and then joined them together by stitching in the seam line. I then added boning to give some structure. Let's make pins. I'd like to give a big shout out to Courtney Little Makeup, who gave me the inspiration of how to actually make the pins and do the makeup and stuff. I cut some plastic Q-tips to size and then melted the ends. While the plastic was soft, I flattened it on a glass dish. I stuck them down with tape and at first tried painting them with acrylic, but that didn't really work. It was really streaky and horrible, so I got the spray paint out. Okay, so last night I finished the jacket. It was just a lot of hand sewing to do, just binding the top of the collar, doing the little eyelets in the back for the lacing, and putting some hooks and eyes on. Only thing is the collar is wanting to stand up a bit too much. I was hoping that the natural curvature of the boning would help it be like in the position I wanted it to be, but because the pieces are so short, they're not bendy anymore, they're more rigid. I'm thinking what I'm going to try, because it's synthetic baleen, theoretically if I heat it up and put it in the position that I want it to be in and then leave it to cool in that position, then it should do what it's supposed to do. Fingers crossed. If not, then I'll have to think of something else. Plan for today: I need to work on the skirt. Should be reasonably straightforward. I've made skirts like this a few times. Only difference is it's got that seam detailing along the bottom. What I'm thinking I'm best off doing is just using my regular Edwardian skirt pattern, cutting off that bit in the right shape, and then I can just tape it back on again later, because I don't know how many other skirts I'm going to make in this style. I will need to add a little bit of extra in the front panel so that I can do the little pleated bit with the lacing down. And I will also need to add some extra to the back so that that can be pleated up, because the pattern that I've got is like tight fitting all the way around, so it just needs to be extended at the back. Fingers crossed I've got enough fabric, because I did use quite a bit on the jacket. I haven't actually calculated exactly how much I've got left yet, so fingers crossed. I might have to make it a little bit less full if I don't quite have enough. The other thing that I need to do today is sort out the wig cap. I do have a latex wig cap. It's a little bit too big for me, but this should be okay because I need to cover my eyebrows and I can't be bothered blocking them out because I'm not very good at it. So my thinking is, if I pull the wig cap down, because it's shaped like that, if I pull it down so that it's just over my eyebrows, then the nose bit will come down to like here, and that can be like, I can hide that seam with there being a line and a pin through it. So that needs to be cut to size, and it also needs to be painted white and have like the grid pattern put onto it. So those are the goals today. Everything has been serged. I've not done anything with the bottom yet because I'm going to be chopping a lot of it off to make room for the kind of ruffle bit that's going to be like a tier underneath it. I'm thinking best course of action now is going to be attaching the uppers to the lowers of each panel. That way I'll have 5 just completed panels. Then I can assemble the skirt as normal. I added a placket to the back and then attached the waistband, pleating up the back section and that little bit at the front to fit. I cut out my ruffle. I tried on my bald cap and marked where the lines should start. I then did the full grid on my wig head. After painting the bald cap white, I used a pin to make a small hole where the grid lines intersected. I then carefully inserted my fake pins. To secure them better, I added a dab of liquid latex around the outside. Back to the ruffle. I did a simple hem and then used my overlocker to create the ruffle. This was so much faster than usual. I tacked and then stitched proper the ruffle to the bottom of the skirt. Seriously, I am so proud of how this has turned out. I'm just amazed. This is one of the most technically complicated things I have ever made, and I'm so proud of myself that I've managed to achieve this. I love the result. I ended up just mooching about in the flat in the makeup and everything afterwards, just in my dressing gown, because I just didn't want to take it off. It was so cool. Makeup wise, it was a little bit wonky. Some of the lines aren't quite there, and I've never been one for making things perfectly symmetrical. But I am so happy with how it turned out. The finished result looks so great. Some of the pins are a little bit wibbly, but you know what? That just makes it authentic. The original Pinhead's pins are a little bit wibbly as well. The bald cap I did have some troubles with because it didn't fit me. it was quite a bit too big. It was labelled as an adult, but I have the head of a 13-year-old. That's why it is a little bit baggy around the back. Also, you could see my edges. This was my very first time ever doing a bald cap, so I think considering that, I did well. Definitely some lessons learned for next time. I do want to do this again at some point, like at a Comic Con or something. I think that'd be really fun. And I think I'd use a smaller rubber bald cap where I can use acetone to dissolve the edges so it would look a lot cleaner. I also had a lot of trouble with the paint. I couldn't get hold of any snaz, so I ended up having to use grease paint, with that cheap stuff that you get from shops at Halloween. It wasn't great. I mean, my hands were really patchy. There were patchy bits that were missing around the back of my neck and stuff like that, like around my ears. It also got everywhere. My other half was helping me with filming the reveal footage and stuff, and I kept coming to the camera to like show him things, and my camera ended up with like white fingerprints all over it. So a little bit of a cleaning up job was done afterwards. The outfit itself, I absolutely love. I think it turned out brilliantly. There's a few little fit issues here and there, and I did have that trouble with the mismatching on the sleeves. But you know what? That's fine. You don't even notice it in the final result, and I think it looks great. Again, this is something that I would love to wear again somewhere. Not even with all the makeup and stuff, just on its own as a Victorian style jacket and stuff. I'm genuinely surprised just how well the outfit matches to my sketch as well. It's so, so good. The skirt was a little bit on the limp side. I will fully admit I completely forgot to put a petticoat on underneath it. I don't know how I forgot that. I also didn't have any tarlatan or anything, so it could have done with a bit of stiffness, which that's something which theoretically I could add in the future. Just to let you know, I am going to be switching my upload schedule to every 2 weeks again instead of every week, just because the whole cost of living crisis, prices of everything skyrocketing, our electricity and gas bills have literally doubled. So financially, I can't really afford to be making something once a week. If you'd like to help out though, I do have a Ko-fi account, which I will leave a link to in the description. There is also a couple of little pictures on there and a little video, a little something something, bit silly with the Pinhead outfit. So definitely check that out. While you're down there doing all the YouTubey things, giving this video a like, commenting, I always read all of my comments, so I will see what you put. Sharing, definitely share this video around. I want as many people as possible to see it. And also, if you're not subscribed and you would like to, no pressure at all, but it would be wonderful. YouTube is telling me that you might like this video next, and I will see you next time. See ya, bye!